What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to We'll Fix It Team. Today we're doing something way different than what you've seen on a lot of these videos. I'm always into something, and today I got a building that I'm going to be pulling a wire to. And I thought, you know what? I don't know how many people mess with wiring on their own out there, or how many watch this channel and have some aspirations of doing something along the lines of that. This is just some basic house wiring techniques that makes life easy. And I'm going to kind of show you where I'm at and how I got there, because I was like, man, I should do this. I wish I had done it in real time. But first thing I had to do was dig a trench. And like you can see, I've got a trench going on right here. I did that. That hole is going to be for a big tower that's going, I can't get my finger pointing around. That'd be a big tower sticking out of that hole with a concrete slab that holds it up. But there's a building behind me I've got to pull some power to so I can run my welder. And what I've done is, you'll see I've got, looks like water line laid on the ground. That's something I had found that was here. I just snatched it out of the woods and was like, that'll make good conduit. I'm down with that. So I had to pull some wire through that. It's a long run, so you won't actually get the wire to go through pushing it by hand, because it'll get all bound up and it just doesn't work. So to get the wire through the hole, I needed to pull the string through the hole. To get the string through the hole, I had to use a device called a shop vac. And kind of resembles some of our second in command. I'm just going to say that. You know what I'm talking about when I say second command shop vac and that thing sucks. But anyways, let me show you what I did. So here's my little shop vac, and there's my water line / conduit. And what I did, I took some basic electrical tape and taped the vacuum cleaner hose to the end of the water line, and then on the other end over here, I'll walk down here to it. I started from this end where I put the string through. I used some basic construction twine, which is quite handy because it's very strong for its size. And I just made the end of the wire up so that which I've already clipped it off, but I just made sure that I fixed the end of the wire where the string wouldn't come off with some electrical tape, and I stripped the insulation back, twisted the wire around the string to pull it through. But anyways, to get the wire to the other end, I used an old like a grocery bag and tied it to the end of the string, turned the shop vac on, and then I used it to pull the string all the way through the hole, through the hose or the line, the water line, back to this end. And then I tied my wire down here, and I had my daughter was helping me, and she would feed it through to me, and then I pulled the string through the other end. I got my wire through there. This is what I had used, how it looked when I wrapped the string around it. Now that right there in itself makes things a lot easier, and I don't have to bury the wire so deep and worry about it. And then next we're going to do is we're going to tie into the panel box here. We're going to pull a 220 volt circuit and then that's going to go in to over here. And this is not that hard as far as it's not the most difficult thing to do. It's not a whole lot of, you don't have to know like circuits that well. You just need to know what's going on in the panel box. So let me get the wire laid in the hole. We're going to get it up into the building over here, and I'll show you where I'm at there. So by the way, thank you for scrolling in. So next, we've got to get a hole drilled in the floor here to get the wire up through. I have bought a new set of spade bits from a drill, and I'm going to show you the removal procedure. And the reason why they have to do this is because there's so many people out there that are self-entitled that they just grab stuff out of stores and don't care. So the packaging is extremely extreme. So let's get these paddle bits open. I'm going to show you a technique for that. Let me see here. We're going to get by the way, this is a trusty Milwaukee 12 volt jigsaw. We're going to get into this packaging right here. All right. There we go. That's how you get into your drill bits. Society. All right. Next, we're going to drill us a hole right there and pull our wire up. It'll come up this wall right here. There will be a small panel box in here at some point, but for right now, just to run the welder, I'm just putting a few outlets in here, so it'll work. But this is just a get by. All right, here we go. So I've drilled this one small hole because I put my hand underneath this building. I could see where the I guess you want to call the beam that goes across the front. They double beam this thing, so I think I can get real close to the edge of this and not hit that double beam. And I'm going to lay a little bit more plywood. This building was built kind of cheap, you know, so I'm going to lay a few more pieces of plywood down to kind of thicken it up. There's plenty of board underneath. I've got great 2x6s underneath here, but it's got to be 1/4 inch plywood or something. It's very thin. So I'm going to lay some more like 7/16 over top of it, and that really strengthened it up. And so that hole doesn't matter right there. I can see where I'm at. And so anyway, so let's, with our little 12 volt. Go Milwaukee, go. So let me go ahead and drill on down through there, and we'll be right back. Yeah, I just did get down beside that second beam. They double beamed it, which is good. Makes it a strong front part of the building. Excuse me. But that's plenty to get my wire up through here. So let me go ahead and get it pulled up in here. Okay, so like I said, this is a 220 outlet we're putting in, but I'm going to split off and use 110 volts on one side of this. And you can do that. And instead of just having a double pole breaker on, mounted in the main panel box as one breaker, I'll use 2 single pole breakers. And so that means if I happen to overlay, now they'll be 20 amp breakers. And the distance from the house to the building is okay to use number 10 wire on, you can use it up to 30 to 40 amps, but we're going to have 2 double pole 20 amp breakers, which will be safe. And if I use too much on the 110 side of it, it'll trip just one side of the breaker. It'll cut the circuit down, and I'll know to flip it back. I've done that before. I don't know how code that is. If that's anywhere like within, I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. Whatever is being powered by the 220 will just back down and be like, can't do nothing on 110, y'all. So let me show you where we're at right quick with this outlet. And by the way, it's probably 96 degrees out today, and so I'm dealing with that. That's why I look like I'm so sweaty. You'll see that I'm just using some free conductor wire, if you count the ground as a conductor. Ground on the green, and black and white will be just hot. We'll just use both legs of the panel box, and this will, my welder doesn't use that many amps. It's got a big plug-in on it. That's it right over there. I've ran it pretty close to wide open just on a 30 amp breaker, and it's never tripped it. So we'll be fine with this here, especially with what I'm welding. I'm not welding nothing major big where I got to turn the welder wide open. But this wire coming up, I'm going to use one side of it and just use the 100, because that's how you get 220, by the way. You're actually pulling, that's when you look at your service coming into your house, you'll see that you have 2 black wires and one of them that's exposed, and each one of those black wires are called a leg, and that's 110 volts and 110 volts. And when you lay it over top each other and they intersect, it's 220. If you watch it on a scope, you'd see what I'm talking about. And so, like I said, I'm just going to use one side of that. So let me get this thing, we're going to go and get the outlet installed. And then we'll go to the panel box and put our breaker in, and we'll do a 110 outlet, and we'll pull a wire out of it, and we'll just put wire nuts on it, because that'll be where I'll also do some lights and everything. So I don't know if I'll get all that done today, but we'll get there. So bear with me, guys. Here we go. Something else that I wanted to show y'all guys real quick too. I'm using a pair of strippers. No, it's not. It's wrong video or network there. We're not like some people and won't give somebody the last name of who they won't claim and first in command. I'm using code words. But these strippers here are these. This is what I'm talking about. And let me show you a few things about these. As you can see, there's numbers. Get in there. Let me flip it around. You can see the numbers that are on these strippers. And what that is the size of the wire. So if you're using 10 gauge wire, you go to 10. And if you're using 14, so on, right? Well, you see these 2 holes right here. You've got a hole here and a hole there. Well, those are there's a couple more too, but they're used to, let me see if I can do it with one hand here and hold the camera at the same time. But you would use these one hole, and you'd put the wire in like this right here. Get in there, Willie. I'm trying to do it with one hand. Okay, and you put the bend in it, but you need both hands. But you'll put a bend in it, and then when you put it on your screw, you want to put it on the screw that is turning in that direction. So when you get the loop in it, lay it on the screw so when you turn it clockwise, it keeps the wire on there, doesn't try to spit the wire off. Now, one other thing about these pliers that are really handy too is if you're needing to cut back one of the retaining screws which holds your switch in, if you need to cut that length off so you can use it somewhere else that you might have to put here or here, and you've got a clearance issue because they're like in a metal box, you would see like a grommet coming down there and your two screws to hold the wire in place after your nut goes on. Sometimes that's a clearance issue when it comes to these retaining screws in a metal box. So you would use these clippers to cut you would use, let me see if I can get back the camera. You would use these holes back here. Those are what they call bolt cutter holes, not for bolts though, but just to trim these back so that it would clear something right behind it here. This won't be the case, but that's just a little detail about how to properly use your strippers there, Temple. All right, so let me go. Oh, and as you can see, we've moved along. And now remember, this is a 220 circuit coming up in here, and I just split both legs off, tied to the back of that outlet. And, yes, it's unconventional, and there'll probably be people in the comments saying, you can't do that. Well, I'm going to do that. And I've done it before. It's fine. It's just an old, you've seen the building. It's just this building will serve its purpose for as long as it does. We'll fix the outside up, and it's just a building. This is not in the house. If this was house wiring, we'd have a 3 conductor with a red, so we'd use everything hot, have a dedicated ground and all that fancy stuff. So we're just trying to make a few things work. Basically, I did this mainly just so I could run my welder and be able to weld up a cage that goes down in that hole for a concrete slab that'll be poured to hold up a 60 to 70 foot tall tower. Okay, now we'll go move along with this some more. That white is a hot, believe it or not. I need to wrap some red tape around it if I wanted to be code. That's a hot. And I pulled a 14 wire off of that hot to come up here into this box here so that I could use this to switch the circuit. Now, yes, I don't have a ground, but yeah, whatever. I'm man enough to take a 110 to the chest. So, but it'll work for my purpose. Like I say, this is just for just some basic small wire and stuff, just to plug in a light and a couple of things in this building. And we'll move along. We'll get into the panel box here. Ooh, it's bright. We'll get into the panel box here in just a little bit so we hook up this wire. Okay, so now we're in the panel box, and I'm using even though I've got it in conduit, I put it in UN wire, which is direct burial, where or is it UMB? Anyways, I'm using direct burial wire, and just because even though it's in this conduit going in the ground, there's a lot of it just seems like the right thing to do. It felt good to use that wire, so I used it. Now what we're going to do is we're stripping this all back, and I've got the conduit run up into the panel box. Let me flip the camera around. You can see here, it's just a piece of EMT that I had laying around. Ran it up into the box, and what it is, I didn't even have. This is somebody else's stuff. I just made it. I was like, well, it worked. I'm not too worried about that. As long as there's some kind of conduit between there and there, it'll be fine. And everything looks really good in here. It's not maxed out. It's fixing to be. Put some breakers in here. But this UM wire is some wonky stuff, and so I've already kind of just penetrated it a little bit with my clippers right here. I took the number 10 part and just kind of squeezed it a little bit, and got the cut started on it. And then we're going to go in here and just peel it back, and usually I can get a good run on it. There we go. And then we'll do the other hot wire neutral. Yeah, right. And so we'll do that, and then our ground we'll just go in over here. We'll just run a ground there on. That's fine. That'll do just fine, because we're in a 220 circuit. You're just intersecting both ends, and you're just providing a place for current to feed back if there was a short to ground, a short to the chassis or whatever it is on a 220 circuit. Well, if we flip the camera around again, you got your neutral and grounds tied to the same bar right here. This is an older panel box. You usually would have them separated, and you could still pull this off with the newer panel box, but you would see a separate neutral bar aside from this what they call the ground or the neutral bus bar right here. That that wire is really stripped back pretty far. Anyway, so not worried about that. And so that's how I'm doing that. And so being the fact that I can just pull off one of these legs here, that's 110, and I've got something feeding back, which is my ground wire, which is a neutral wire, which it technically doesn't have. It's a 0 voltage. It's crazy how that works. My sinuses, stuff they spray in the air out here. Those clouds aren't natural. Anyways, thank you, Tesla, for your alternating current innovations. So let me go ahead and continue on, and I'm going to run the wire. I'm going to run the wire along the bottom, try to make it look nice, and come back up over here and put my 2 single pole breakers in. So that way I have somewhat safety if I overload one side of that. And we'll be right back. All right, so we're getting ready to snap the breakers in, and I'm going to show you something that needs to be done to all breakers before you put them into a panel box and any kind of big wire that you're using, because you know, we'll give you a run over real quick. Check this out. So like I say, we're using 2 single pole breakers doubled up to get our 220. That way if we overload one of our 110 sides, we'll trip a breaker. But I've put a liberal coating of deox in there, and this is what it looks like, or ox guard. And you put that in there because and over time, there could be moisture and stuff, and just from the electrolysis that goes on whenever electricity passes through metals. This keeps the connection from getting corroded between the point where it's pinched on. And from the looks of it, the people that did some wiring before me didn't use any of that there. They just stuck them on. And so that's something we may address before we put the cover back on. But anyway, so what we're going to do is just snap the get the D or ox guard on my finger. We're going to snap them in like I'm talking about, but I'm going to need both hands so I can work the wire, and I'm holding my camera with one hand. All right, let me do that real quick. And you'll just push and lock. This is a funny looking version of the square D stuff. I'm used to having a snap lock, which I like better, but that's okay. This will work. Let's flip our breakers on and see if anything does anything crazy. Okay, we're good there. All right. Oh, look. And I went ahead and I packed a bunch of ox guard in there. I said, to heck with it. And I pulled those breakers and I ox guarded those as well. And I actually checked those connections and fixed that wire a little bit better, if we noticed that or not. But now we are ready to see if our building's got any power. We're going to walk over here to it. Let's see here. Do we have the 220 that we were looking for? We'll plug in the... Of course, I've got it in upside down. That'll be all right too. See if this thing will come on. Okay. Now up here we've got, for right now, I don't have time today to wire that in. But let's see here. I had this plugged in outside just for temporary. Let's plug it in. Let's see if we got 110. Yeah. We should have 110 on the other side as well. Yeah. All right, well there you have it. If they said it couldn't be done, daggone it, we did it. And we could run this setup. This will be fine. It's safe. Other than the fact that some of the stuff might not be grounded. But hey, that's some houses in 1950 didn't have a ground. Everybody was fine. You're here watching this video because your parents didn't die. All right, thank you for tuning in to We'll Fix It Team. Wiring up some stuff. I'm out. Peace out.